everyone, and welcome to the Shamans Cave. I'm Renee Baribeau.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandra Ingerman and welcome to the Shamans Cave.
I would just like to start before we get into the topic and say thank you to all the people who commented under last week's YouTube. I was really moved by the depth and the breadth of your shares about, how you take care of yourself and what the processes that you do. And we get a lot of information from there. And if you're not watching us there, you can watch us there, and you can also hit subscribe and hit that you like it, and definitely leave comments because we go back through. Sandra answers emails and I answer the YouTube, and if you're really speaking about something great on Facebook, I've seen these long posts back from Sandra, responding to the ones that have meaning, not the ones where you just post up a meme, but when you really share about the who you are and what your experience is, and that really is meaningful conversation, and it kind of ties into some of what we're going to be talking about in today's show.
Absolutely, yeah. It's really interesting. We can get so distracted, and I'm one of those people who can get really distracted. My husband Wood says we have 15 minutes before we have to leave, and I go 15 minutes, no problem. And then all of a sudden, well, there's this email that I want to read again, or there's this thing, or I forgot to get this out of my bedroom, and before I know it, I'm late. So yeah, we kind of all live kind of interesting lives, and it is kind of part of the topic today of I I've really been thinking about. I'm actually going to write. I hope all of you know that I write a monthly column called the Transmutation News, and it's on sandraingerman.com. You can sign up on an email list to get it, or if you don't want to, you can just go to the site and read it. And for my next column, you're getting a preview of my next column. An acquaintance of mine recently said to me, we were talking about health issues, and I was talking about some of what was going on for me and kind of where I've been and where I feel all my work is starting to take me to, and what my spirits are still telling me what I need. And we started to talk about land that has been traumatized or hurt in some particular way. We talked about Fukushima and land that, really experienced nuclear war. And then she sent me an article about how these lands and what's happening in Chernobyl is unbelievably amazing, because with having the solitude, I'm going to use the word solitude, which is not a nature word, but it is, having that solitude, not isolation, the land, and having the conditions right, with the elements, the land is gorgeous there now. I mean, I saw pictures of unbelievable forests and plants and trees growing that are extraordinary. And the bottom line of the article was, if you can not create more devastating conditions, everything in life can survive and can thrive, even in the midst of devastation. You can come back. And that's been a really important theme for me, because with some of what I've been through, you kind of wonder, wow, am I coming back from this, or is it, a downward slide? And so nature, when we look at nature and when we look at the seasons, we can actually get a roadmap for ourselves of how to regenerate in our lives and how to stay healthy in our lives, because nature with its seasons has particular phases of what all life is going through, including us. So even if you live in the city and you never know when the fall equinox is or when the winter equinox is. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You still are nature. You're still part of nature, whether you acknowledge it or not. And so we're all, and I can't find the right word. I want to say being controlled, but I don't believe in the word controlled. It's almost like we're guided by nature. Nature doesn't control us, but it guides us on our bodily movements and what is going to bring us back health every year, because nature's cycles is all around death and rebirth and letting go of what no longer works and nurturing that new life, that new life. And so there's set phases in nature with the seasons, and we don't, as humans working with a linear calendar, we're not attuned body wise to the change in the seasons. And so we don't change our behavior to be in the phase of the seasons. And that throws our body off balance and makes us sick.
Mhm. I was thinking as you were talking about how wind work has regulated me to be more in aligned with nature without even really like consciously thinking about how I move from the linear into the cyclical, but just like, creating a program that's based in that and following it for a few years, which I've done like with the apprenticeship program and the windwork basics and things like that, that all of a sudden a few weeks ago, I started waking up really early, like 4:30, 5:30 in the morning. And I was like, for a couple of days I'm there, but it's so dark out. And then, a couple days in, I got this message. Yes, but you do all your work, your personal work in the morning before you start your other work. So you need this to get up and get your website organized and your writing done because you have less light during the day to get the other stuff done. And so like when it starts to get dark at night and you've already had a long day, you're probably more tired. But when you get up in the dark, you look forward to when the light comes in the room, and then you start like moving about and letting the cat out and all of that kind of stuff. But it just happened naturally. And then I thought about it. It seems to happen naturally every fall. And the other thing that happens a lot for me in the fall is that I tend to do a lot of my dreaming in the fall. Like I'll have really significant dreams every fall. Now, I don't know if that's more related. I'd love to know, do other people dream more in the fall? But, that's my birth cycle. That's when my clock resets. And so I'm not sure which it has to do with, but I'm going to really pay more attention. And to become really as living in a climate where the seasons do change dramatically. It was 71 weekend and now it's in the 40s or low 50s. You have to prepare like a squirrel. You got to get all your nuts in a row, all your, today I ran to Ace before we recorded to get batteries and flashlights, gas for the generator, because you with this wind and this cold, that if you're not prepared for the winter, you're going to be really out of luck.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those are real, Renee, what you're sharing is incredibly practical. And as human beings, we have to be practical. We both live in more what we would call suburban environments, and so you do have to get real practical during those times. And, and of course that's really perfect. And a lot of people find themselves, oh God, I wish I would have prepared more. I didn't pay attention to the fact that the temperatures were dropping. I didn't pay attention to the fact that the temperatures were rising too fast, and I had to get out there and start to do some work. And kind of for me, the real push around this is so many people, and we have another show on talking about health issues. It's almost like I don't really know anybody who's healthy. I'm sure there are people who are healthy, but I don't know many people who aren't dealing with some kind of health issue, except for Renee. and
Knock
and
on wood.
and yeah, and so and psychologically also, I wrote about this in my novel that I self-published, A Fall to Grace, that if we don't follow nature's rhythms, we end up getting depressed because we're always walking against the river of life. And that not only causes so much stress on our body, but it causes so much stress on our psyche because we are nature. All of nature is moving in this way. We're moving in this way. And so, that causes it just causes a force to build up in our body where we're not letting our energy just settle and have that time for regeneration. We're always moving, 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 moving. And so, what are we dealing with on the planet right now? Insomnia, anxiety issues, depression issues. They're the highest that they've probably ever been, at least in the States. And so, how do we change that? Without drugs. We can change it without drugs. We can change it by just living in a natural cycle of watching when the sun rises, as Renee was talking about. Because it's interesting. I'm waking up at 4 o'clock every morning going, what the hell is going on? I don't want to be up this early. I'm supposed to be resting. And so, following the cycles of the sun as the animals do, one of my biggest joys is watching every night how the birds line up at the tallest branch possible on the trees as the sun is setting, and it's almost like they're bowing to the sun, but they're taking in that very last ray, and they all line up on the tree branches. It's an amazing thing to watch. And so if we watch that, how the sun is greeted and how the sun is said goodbye to at night, and how in the winter, depending on where you live, some states never get snow and never get cold. But if you are living in a place where there is winter, how do you rest and regenerate during that time so that you're in phase with the season, and so you're not doing something that's opposite than nature's doing? So the point is, can we get alignment with nature, or are we going to keep doing the opposite of what nature's doing? And that all comes into really focusing on the phases where you live of the different seasons, because there's such a distinct energetic change. There's a different smell in the air. There's a different temperature of the wind. There's a different texture in the water. The sun is in a different position in the sky. The moon is in different positions. Everything is changing. And are we changing with those changes? And from what I see, most of us are not. And then we don't understand why we're dealing with depression, anxiety, and all these illnesses. We're actually doing everything possible to work against ourselves, which is nature. So we're actually hurting ourselves. Nature isn't hurting us. We're hurting ourselves by not getting in tune to what is the earth doing at this change in seasons, and you should be doing the same thing that the earth is doing.
Absolutely. Before the call, I was telling Sandra that last year at the end of the IM Winter Solstice Symposium, we were out of breath because we had thousands of people and we had lots of presenters. And I'm there like, wait, there's something off here. So this year, I'm going to make a very inward type of ceremony where we go inward and we tend to the inner flame because it's a lot to get to January and be out of breath when you're supposed to be relaxing. I'm really fortunate where I live. I have views of the sunset over the harbor. And I've been watching the sun, well, I guess the earth moves, not the sun, but that it keeps moving, it keeps going over and over and over. Like just when I think I have a view, it changes. But it's just a really good reminder if you mark those locations for yourself and think back to, well, where was I when the sun was in that position last year? What was I doing? Or like where's the sun going to be coming up when my tulips are coming up in the spring? And start to really, chart your course. See that linear landscape that we've so been in tune to for so many thousands of years was about workers and production. You work until you're at your peak, and then you're at your peak, and then you decline. Whereas, we're not looking out at the tree out in the yard saying, oh, are you past your prime with your working production? No, we just say, oh, you're getting very tall and you're getting very leafy and you might need a couple of branches trimmed off. But when we go back to that and consider our lives as a tree cycle, it's way more informative than thinking about, when you're at, like, I just turned 65, I'm like, oh my God, I'm at the end of my career cycle. Well, I probably have a good 20 years left of a new career cycle. If I look at it that way, if I look at it that that consumption model, I can get really depressed.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good example of it's a really good example of how we've moved away from balance. But, there's also seasons in life,
Hmm.
and we also have to acknowledge and look at the season that we're in our own life, because, like Renee says, she has 20 years left in her. I used to think that I was going to teach until the day I die, and who knows, maybe I will, I don't
You
know,
will.
but I definitely find myself just naturally. It's just a natural process, just like seasons come in naturally. It's a natural thing that happens. I'm just finding myself feeling like I'm entering into a new season where I'm really loving solitude and looking at creating more space to do my own inner work. And I'm not looking so much at nature outside anymore, although I live in a beautiful part of nature. I'm actually focusing more on building, and I talked about this in a very recent show, on how do I build such an incredible inner landscape inside myself that I don't feel pushed around by the craziness of the outside world, and that I can heal and I can regenerate my body. And so, just to give you an example of something that I'm doing, I was creating images inside myself, like, what do I love outside of myself? What do I love to see outside of myself? And I was imagining them like inside of me, growing inside of me. When I talk about that more, kind of in the area of my solar plexus. So instead of imagining things here, imagining things in my body. And I found that to be a little bit distracting, all the edges and all the forms and everything. And what my guardian spirit, I journeyed and I asked him for some suggestions on what I can do to regenerate. And he gave me one, which won't make sense to most of you. It's a personal thing, so I won't share it. But one of the things he gave me, which I really loved, and I want to share it with you, is he told me how much I love color, and I do, and I've talked about it on the show. I have this thing with colors. I see colors in a different way than other people. Some colors can actually make me pass out from their beauty. And so he said, if everything is energy, he said, imagine just a color inside of you and the energy of that color and absorb that just like you absorb water when you drink it or you absorb your favorite food. Absorb the energy of the color. Keep it simple. Just really keep it simple. And then the thing that he shared with me, so that's something that you might try if you like working with energy. Try building an inner landscape with energetic colors or energetic textures that when you absorb them, you actually feel like your body's being fed by that frequency, by that energy in a really good way, instead of the destructive things we tend to put into our body. But then he reminded me of one of my own products that I made, and that's the Heal Your Thoughts app that I came that, and he said, you're not working with your own app. And he said, because I've been using it since the day it came out in like 2004. And I just, when there's a reminder for you to, what are you thinking about every 2 hours so that you can reframe your thoughts. And it has photos, words, blessings, phrases, pictures to help change your mood. And he said, if you look at that every hour on the hour, if you do it every hour on the hour, your inner landscape is going to naturally change because you're just going to be flooded with beautiful words, beautiful phrases, beautiful blessings, and beautiful photos. What else do you need to build a beautiful inner landscape? So I'm not saying that you need to buy my app for $1.99.
Right?
but,
Spring for her app.
but you can do something similar to that of making sure that you're filling yourself up with the positive. And if you do that and follow what the seasons are asking your body to do, when it wants you to rest, when it wants you to garden or take walks, or when it wants you to work more, you're just going to find that life changes for you naturally without even trying. And I think people are trying too hard right now. We're taking too many courses, reading too many books, trying to get too much information on how to get through this when our body actually already knows how to get through this. And so how do we take the time to listen?
I was thinking this morning about how happy I was yesterday learning how to build a fence. Like really out there having the gardeners dig the holes and really thinking about lining things up. And so for me, what moves me into that joyful spot is really this active creation of and I've been really enjoying the land and how I can, make it like a really nice sanctuary for me and the other people who are going to be living next door. And so that works for me. I haven't had, for knock on wood, those thoughts that were for a while where I really felt that I had to change them. But I have done this exercise last month with the apprentices about what's your first thought. Like all of a sudden, and the one that came up for me was I couldn't find my drill. what was my first thought about not being able to locate something that I misplaced? For me in the moment, it was, oh, one of the construction people took it. Or, you know what I mean? It was like, and then I pulled back and I'm there like, really? And I was like, no, not really. And it's just like, sometimes these thoughts are like old patterns from like ancient seeds that really you need to winnow those seeds out and really toss some of them away. But first, like you were saying, you have to really become aware of that you're in that place. Because people can go for a whole day just blah 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 blah, and I'm thinking, is that really how you talk to yourself all day long? And if it is, first step is to notice and then listen to Sandra's app or go out and take a wind walk or do any of those things. But you don't have to stay in that place ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's important for us to find the discipline because we're calling in energies that are not helpful to all the division going on right now because our own mind is so divided. I discovered by really, really doing some deep inner work that I'm in war with myself. And
Mm.
that all the wars that I'm so upset about going on outside of the world, I need to focus on the war going on inside of myself right now.
Hmm.
And so that's what I'm focusing on. We are at war with ourselves. Our
Hmm.
minds are telling us one thing, our body's telling us something else because it has needs. And our mind is scared, so our mind is doing what our mind wants to do, and our spirit is trying to guide us, but are we listening?
Mm.
So we have all these opposing forces, and we're all experiencing somewhat of a war inside of
Hmm.
ourselves. And what we're afraid of actually happening outside is already going on inside of ourselves, and the devastation is huge. It's huge when you're at war at yourself and you're not loving yourself, and body, mind, and spirit are not working in harmony. Your energy is just off, and that's going to put you out of the flow. And when you're out of the flow, nothing seems to work out, and you wonder why. So nature teaches us about that. It really
Hmm.
does. And just to share something, and then I'll stop, and Renee has something more to add. In shamanic cultures where there used to be bear was not everywhere in the world, but where bears roamed the earth in Europe. Um, those cultures, and you see it in different places around the world because bear has just become so infamous around the world for its gifts. Um, Shamans couldn't understand. You have to understand these were pre-technological societies. Here was this creature, this big bear, that every winter died, to them, died because it disappeared somewhere in a cave and didn't come out. And then, to their amazement, when the weather was warm enough, the bear would come out. So to them, bear was a being who could die and be reborn every year.
Mm.
And so bear has in shamanic cultures, bear is the shaman. Bear is the shaman in shamanic cultures. Even in among the Hopi, I have a Hopi friend, and I did a power animal retrieval for him once, and I brought him back bear, and he said, "Oh my God, bear is the shaman in my culture," you know. And the point that I'm trying to make, it's just an interesting story about bear, but the point that I'm trying to make is that bear is a teacher for us. It's like a teacher. In the winter, you hibernate and then you're reborn again, and you're reborn a magical being because you did die and you let go of, and you dreamed a new dream, and you came out a new being to be alive in a new season and flow with life again. And so if we can think about that, something as dramatic as a whole species that really goes into their inner world during the winter. And we think about how animals behave in the different seasons. We have so much to learn from nature of how we can be healthy on all levels, body, mind, and spirit, if we're willing to watch, keep our eyes open, listen to the sounds, and be aware of what nature is doing around us, and journey to nature for guidance or sit in nature for guidance. But if you do it, I promise you, you will move into a state of health.
I love that. When I was first on this path, probably was on this path my whole life, but when I first realized I was on this path, I painted 10 huge big canvases of bears. They came to me in all kinds of ways, like, coming out of a cave, looking in a pool, rowing a boat. So, me and the bears, we have a long sordid history. Sandra, you just said it beautifully. The only thing that I would say is, if you're in the north, we're going into winter. So, what leaves are you shedding? What do you need to sustain yourself through these cold, dark nights ahead? And if you're coming into summer, what seeds have you planted in the spring that are going to start to grow and that you're going to need to tend, and really get it that simple? And I think we've said enough on this and a lot of other things as well, but stay with us, and we're here. And if, in case you haven't noticed, we're doing a show every other week right now, because one of the tendings that we're doing is we're tending, and this is the way we're tending. But make sure you hit subscribe, that you like the show, that you go to Shamans TV. If you haven't seen, I kind of did a web reface. Looks really good. Sign up for the email and you'll get notices of when we do drop new shows and what shows we're suggesting you watch in between.
And I really want to thank Renee for the beautiful job that she does with the emails, with the website. I really admire Renee, because this would take me years to learn how to do, and I don't think I have the mind for it. So thank you, Renee, because if it wasn't for Renee, we would have no Shaman's Cave coming together to talk with you. And we are going on an every other week schedule. And I need that to take care of me. I don't know about Renee, but I have some projects that I'm doing, and I just don't want to get overextended. And so thank you for your patience with that, and thank you for all your wonderful comments about the show and how much it means to all of you. So blessings, everyone.